He married her for a deal, not for love, not even for respect. Society laughed at the bride. The Duke collected his prize, and everyone assumed the wedding night would follow the same arrangement. They were wrong. By morning, the Duke was standing in the hallway, fully dressed, holding the handle of a locked door. And for the first time in his life, he realized the bargain he made did not belong to him anymore. The Duke of Westhaven did not believe in romance. That was not bitterness. It was efficiency. Romance complicated decisions, and Westhaven had spent his life mastering control of estates, of reputation, of people. This marriage was no different. He stood in the solicitor's office as Lydia Hartwell signed her name, the pen steady in her hand. No hesitation, no theatrics. "You understand," he said, without looking at her. "This marriage exists for one purpose." Lydia set the pen down carefully. "Yes," she replied. "For the transfer of the prize stallion." He finally met her gaze. Most women flinched under his scrutiny. Lydia did not. The stallion Aurelian was the finest breeding horse in the county. Her brother's failing estate depended on it. Without that bloodline, Hartwell Farm would be lost by winter. The Duke slid the final document forward. "The horse will be delivered within the week," he said. "My solicitors will handle the transfer. And in return," Lydia said evenly, "I become your wife." "Duchess," he corrected. A flicker of something crossed her face. "Only in public," she said. That amused him. Slightly. The wedding was held at Westhaven Chapel. Brief and impeccable. No celebration. No lingering glances. Guests whispered, though quietly enough to pretend they were not. Why her? Surely he could have chosen better. Poor girl, doesn't even realize what she's gained. Lydia heard none of it. She walked with her head high, hands folded, her plain ivory gown unadorned by jewels. When the vows were spoken, the Duke's voice was firm. Lydia's was softer, but no less certain. "You may kiss the bride," the clergyman said. The Duke leaned forward and brushed her cheek. Polite, controlled. Exactly as expected. Westhaven House loomed in the twilight, vast and silent as the carriage arrived. The servants bowed deeply. "Your Grace, Your Grace," they murmured. Lydia felt the weight of the title settle on her shoulders, not heavy but precise. Inside, she was shown her chambers. Separate, tastefully arranged, practical. "This will be suitable," the housekeeper said. "His Grace's rooms are across the hall." Lydia nodded. "That will be fine." Later that evening, the Duke appeared at her door, already changed from formal attire. "There are expectations," he said, voice neutral. "Society will assume certain things." Lydia met his gaze calmly. "They may assume what they like." A pause. He had not expected that answer. "I propose," he continued, "that we maintain courtesy and discretion. Nothing more is required." She considered him for a moment. Then she said, quietly, "I agree." Relief crossed his face. What he did not notice was the way she studied the door behind him. Much later, as the house settled into sleep, Lydia rose from her bed and crossed the room. She checked the bolt. Then she turned the key. The sound was soft, final. Lydia returned to the bed and lay back against the pillows, heart steady. For the first time that day, she allowed herself a small smile. The deal had been made. But the terms were about to change. The knock came early, not hurried, not gentle, measured. The Duke of Westhaven stood in the corridor outside Lydia's chamber, already dressed for the day. His valet waited several steps behind him, eyes politely lowered. Westhaven lifted his hand again and knocked once more. Nothing. He frowned. "Duchess?" he called, voice controlled. Still nothing. A quiet irritation stirred, unfamiliar, unwelcome. He reached for the handle. It did not move. He tried again. Locked. The valet shifted uncomfortably. "Shall I fetch the housekeeper, Your Grace?" he asked. Westhaven straightened. "No," he said shortly. "Leave us." The valet withdrew at once. Westhaven stood alone in the corridor, staring at the door. Locked. That had not been discussed. Inside the chamber, Lydia sat at the small writing desk by the window, sunlight spilling across the page as she finished her letter. Her hands were steady. She folded the paper, sealed it, and rose only then, moving unhurriedly to the door. "Good morning, Your Grace," she said through the wood. "I trust you slept well." Westhaven blinked. "Open the door," he said. "In a moment," she replied calmly. "There are a few matters we should clarify first." His jaw tightened. "This is unnecessary." "I disagree." Silence stretched between them. Then, "Very well," he said coolly. "Clarify." Lydia rested her hand lightly against the door. "Our marriage is a contract," she began. "Agreed." "Yes," he said. "You purchased my family's security," she continued. "Not my obedience." His fingers curled slowly. "I have not demanded." "You assumed," she said gently. "That access came with the agreement." Another pause. She could almost hear his breath. "You locked me out," he said. "Yes." "For what purpose?" "So we may begin honestly," she replied. Minutes later, the door opened. Not abruptly, not defiantly, just enough. Westhaven stepped inside. He looked around the room, then at her. She stood straight, composed, fully dressed, not defensive, not apologetic. "This will not become habit," he said. "No," she agreed. "It will not need to." That unsettled him more than anger would have. "You made a point," he said. "I set a boundary," she corrected. He studied her, really studied her, for the first time. "You could have embarrassed me," he said. "The servants would have noticed." "I knew you would not involve them," she replied. "You value control too much." That landed. "Then let us speak plainly," he said. "Yes," she agreed. "Let us." They sat opposite each other at the small table near the window. Lydia poured tea, offered him a cup. He accepted it. "The arrangement stands," she said. "I will perform my duties publicly and with dignity." "And privately?" he asked. She met his gaze evenly. "Privately, I require courtesy and consent," she said. Nothing assumed, nothing taken. His brow furrowed. "You intend to live as strangers?" "No," she replied. "I intend to live as your equal." He leaned back slightly. "That is unusual." "So was marrying me," she said softly. A corner of his mouth twitched before he could stop it. When breakfast was served later, the household noticed something different. The Duke walked beside the Duchess, not ahead, not behind. Conversation was sparse, but it was shared. When Lydia addressed the steward, Westhaven did not interrupt. He listened. When she asked for estate accounts to be delivered to her sitting room as well as his, he nodded. "Of course," he said. The servants exchanged glances. Something had shifted. That afternoon, Westhaven stood alone in his study, staring at the stallion's transfer papers. The deal had been completed. Clean, efficient, and yet, he felt unsettled, not because he had lost control, but because, for the first time, someone had redrawn the terms without asking permission, and he had allowed it. Down the corridor, Lydia closed her chamber door gently behind her. This time, she did not lock it. The change did not arrive all at once. It never did. The Duke of Westhaven noticed it first in the mornings. Lydia no longer waited to be told where she was needed. She already knew. Estate ledgers appeared on his desk with neat markers at the margins. Servants followed her instructions without confusion. The house, once rigid and ceremonial, began to breathe. He told himself it was efficiency, nothing more. Until one afternoon, he overheard her. Lydia stood in the west corridor speaking with the head gardener. "The southern beds won't survive another dry week," she said calmly. "Move the irrigation schedule forward and reduce the display plantings." The gardener hesitated. "His Grace prefers the roses." "His Grace prefers results," Lydia replied gently. "And he trusts you to deliver them." The gardener nodded and hurried off. Westhaven stepped forward then. "You speak with authority," he observed. She turned, unflustered. "I speak with preparation," she corrected. He folded his arms. "You gave an order in my name." "I acted in your interest," she said. "If you would prefer I wait for permission." "No," he interrupted. The word came quicker than intended. She paused, then inclined her head slightly. "As you wish." That unsettled him again. That evening, they dined together. Not formally, not ceremoniously, simply because both happened to be there. He watched her eat unself-conscious, composed. "You are not what I expected," he said finally. She did not look up. "Few people are," she replied. He studied her more closely. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" he asked. "Truly." She set her fork down. "My brother's estate needed saving," she said. "That is the simple answer." "And the rest?" She met his gaze. "The rest," she said quietly, "is that I was tired of being dismissed before I spoke." Something shifted in him then, a recognition he had avoided. He had done the same. The first invitation arrived the following week. A small gathering. Polite, watchful. Westhaven considered declining. Lydia read the card over his shoulder. "We should attend," she said. "They will scrutinize you," he replied. "They already are," she said evenly. "This way, we choose the terms." He glanced at her. "You don't fear it." "No," she said. "I fear silence more." At the gathering, conversation paused when they entered. Not dramatically, precisely. Westhaven felt the familiar tightening, then felt Lydia's hand rest lightly on his arm. Grounding. Lady Mercer smiled thinly. "My dear Duke," she said. "And, Duchess." Lydia inclined her head. "Lady Mercer." "How unexpected this match has been." "Yes," Lydia agreed calmly. "Unexpected things often reveal what was previously overlooked." Lady Mercer blinked. Westhaven nearly smiled. Later, as they walked home beneath the lanterns, he spoke. "You don't retreat," he said. "I advance carefully," she replied. He stopped walking. She turned. "I misjudged you," he said. She studied him for a moment. "Most people did," she said softly. "I've made peace with that." He hesitated. "I don't wish to." The words surprised them both. She searched his face. "Then don't," she said simply. That night, Westhaven stood at the window of his study, watching the lights dim across the estate. For the first time since their marriage, he did not think of Lydia as an obligation, nor as a problem to manage, but as a presence. Steady, intelligent, quietly formidable. He realized something then. He had not lost control. He had gained a partner. And for a man like the Duke of Westhaven, that changed everything. The rain began after dusk, a steady, quiet rain that softened the stone paths and blurred the garden beyond the windows. Lydia was in the small sitting room adjoining the library, sorting correspondence, when Westhaven paused in the doorway. He did not announce himself. He rarely did. "You're still working," he said. She glanced up. "The accounts required attention," she replied. "They were being overlooked." "By me," he said. She did not correct him. He stepped farther into the room, closing the door behind him. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, "There is something I should say," he began. She set the papers aside. "I'm listening." He remained standing, hands clasped behind his back. "I did not marry you with kindness in mind," he said carefully. "I married you because it was efficient." Her expression did not change. "I knew that," she said. "That does not excuse it," he continued. "But it explains my blindness." She waited. "I mistook control for strength," he said, "and silence for agreement." The fire crackled softly. "When you locked the door," he went on, "I was angry." She nodded. "And now?" "Now," he said quietly, "I am grateful." That surprised her. "You drew a line," he said, "and instead of losing authority, I gained clarity." She studied him, then really studied him. "This is not an apology," she said. "It is a beginning." "Yes," he agreed. "It is." He moved to the chair opposite her, sitting at last. "You once said you were tired of being dismissed," he said. "I have been guilty of that." She folded her hands in her lap. "You are not the first." "I intend to be the last," he replied. The words were steady, intentional. Her breath caught slightly. "This marriage," he continued, "was meant to be transactional." She nodded. "But I find myself," he said slowly, "reconsidering the nature of the terms." She raised her eyes to his. "What terms?" "Distance," he said. "Assumption. Control." She held his gaze. "And what would replace them?" He hesitated. "Respect," he said. "And if you permitted honesty." She did not answer at once. Then she said quietly, "You are asking for access." "No," he corrected. "I am asking for trust." Later that evening, they walked together through the long gallery. The portraits watched in silence. "My parents' marriage was not kind," Westhaven said. "My father ruled, my mother endured." Lydia stopped. "I am not your mother," she said gently. "I know," he replied. "That is why I am speaking now." He turned to face her fully. "I do not know how to offer affection easily," he said. "But I am learning that withholding it is not virtue." She searched his face. "And what do you feel?" she asked. He did not evade the question. "Regret," he said, "for not seeing you sooner." Something softened in her eyes. "That is acceptable," she said. A faint smile touched his mouth. "High praise," he murmured. Before they parted for the night, he paused at her door. "I will not cross boundaries you have not opened," he said. "But I would like to know." "Yes?" she asked. "If there is space," he said, "for this marriage to become more than it was." She considered him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "There is space." He nodded once. "Then I will proceed carefully." She smiled just slightly. "I expect nothing less." And as the door closed behind her, Lydia rested her hand against the wood, heart steady. This was not love. Not yet. But it was something far rarer. A man learning how to see. The house was quieter than Lydia expected. Not the expectant hush of ceremony, but the settled stillness of a place that trusted the night. She stood by the window of her chamber, the candlelight soft against the pale walls, listening to the rain ease into silence. A knock sounded at the door. Once. Measured. "Come in," she said. Westhaven entered without haste. He had removed his coat, his expression composed but no longer distant. "I wanted to speak," he said, "before the night decides anything for us." She turned toward him. "I would prefer that," she replied. They stood several steps apart, the space between them deliberate. "This marriage began with terms," he said, "and I benefited from the assumption that they favored me." She did not disagree. "I will not assume anything tonight," he continued. "Not your presence, not your consent." Her shoulders eased just slightly. "Thank you," she said. He did not move closer. That, more than any promise, told her he meant it. "This door," he said quietly, gesturing behind him, "will remain open unless you wish otherwise." She looked at the door, then back at him. "I locked it once," she said softly. "To be heard." "Yes," he agreed. "And I listened." A silence followed. Not awkward. Intentional. She crossed the room, then not hurried, not uncertain, and stopped before him. "I do not want this night to be another agreement," she said. "I want it to be a choice." His breath slowed. "As do I," he replied. She reached for his hand. He let her. When they moved closer, it was without urgency. Every gesture asked, not claimed. Every response given, not assumed. Westhaven brushed her hair back gently, as though the motion itself were a question. She answered by resting her hand against his chest. "You may," she said. The words were quiet, but they changed everything. Their kiss was unhurried, exploratory, marked more by care than passion. When he paused, she did not pull away. When she leaned in, he followed. Time softened. The world narrowed. Later, the candle burned low. They lay side by side, not tangled, not distant, equal. Westhaven rested on one elbow, studying her face in the dim light. "You chose me," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "Tonight I did." His expression shifted, something vulnerable, almost unguarded. "Then I will choose you," he said. "Every day that follows." She smiled, not wide, but real. "Good," she said. "I expect consistency." A quiet laugh escaped him. Much later, as sleep settled gently, Lydia rested her head against his shoulder. For the first time since signing her name on a contract, she felt no need to protect herself with distance. Not because she was safe, but because she was respected. And in the quiet of that shared understanding, the door remained open. Not because it had to be, but because neither of them wished to close it. The morning light entered Westhaven House gently, not triumphantly, not urgently, just enough to remind the world that something had changed. Lydia woke first. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet rhythm beside her, steady, unguarded. When she shifted slightly, Westhaven stirred. "You're awake," he murmured. "Yes." He did not reach for her at once. Instead, he waited, watching her face, as if checking whether the night had altered anything she wished to keep unchanged. It had not. She met his gaze calmly. "Good morning," she said. A pause. Then he smiled. "Good."
Hi guys, the moral of this story is simple. Power does not need to be loud, and respect can never be part of a deal. Setting boundaries is not being difficult, it's knowing your worth. Sometimes the quietest person is the one who changes everything. And here, that Zaggy stories and tales, we share stories that remind us that dignity will always matter more than control. Thank you. Bye bye.